All right. Good evening and welcome to the January 16th meeting of the Hickory City Council for 2024. At this time, I would like to invite the Reverend Christy Laura Sapp from St. Andrew's Lutheran Church. I'm not sure, I don't see her in the audience. So I'll just ask that if you're able to please stand for the invocation. I'll give the invocation, and as I speak, she's walking in the door. I was just getting ready to take your place, Reverend. Okay, she'll be coming to the podium for our invocation. I would ask that you're already standing, remain standing after the invocation for the Pledge of Allegiance, and thank you for being here this evening.
Thank you. I apologize. In my brain, these start at 7.
We used to do that.
I know. So in honor of this weekend, I am going to share with you a prayer attributed to Martin Luther King Jr. So let us pray. Most gracious and all-wise God, before whose face the generations rise and fall, in whom we live and move and have our being, we thank you for all of your good and gracious gifts, for life and for health, for food and for raiment, for the beauties of nature and human nature. Break the spell of that which blinds our minds. Purify our hearts that we may see you. In these turbulent days, O God, when fear and doubt are mounting high, give us broad visions, penetrating eyes, and power of endurance. Help us to work with renewed vigor for a warless world, for a better distribution of wealth, and for brother and sisterhood that transcends race and color and every form of inequality. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. All right. Ready? All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Okay, to start us off this evening, we have two very special presentations. So at first here, I'm going to call on Carrie Dunlap with Martin and Starnes Associate for our annual audit synopsis report. I'm not sure which is the best way to label that, but she'll be telling you a lot of interesting information.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There it is. Let's go all the way back to the beginning. Good evening. It's my pleasure to be here with you this afternoon. Thank you for allowing us to share the results. And we very much appreciate the ability to continue as your auditors. We like having clients that are close by, so we really appreciate our relationship. So I'll first talk a little bit about the audit process. So the audit begins with planning and risk assessment. That's when we send the inquiries to the council if there's any issues, anything you want to discuss, anything that would require us to investigate a little further. So that kind of kicks everything off. And then we also read all of the council minutes throughout the year, so we're up to date with what else is going on, and that kind of evolves throughout the year, and it continues in case any risks need to be updated throughout the audit. So then we have our fieldwork procedures. We typically come on site at least twice a year, and we do, in the spring, we do any internal control testing, any compliance testing, and then we come back in the fall to complete what's left of that, and then we also do our balance sheet analysis at that point. Once all the field work is wrapped up, we have the audit committee meeting, which involves Hickory staff as well as council members, and that's where we discuss any issues that were found, and it's just an added layer of independence between the city, the staff, and the council. So once that's complete, we issue the report to the LGC, and then we present to city council. So a few audit highlights. There was an unmodified opinion on the financial statements and compliance, so that means there's no reason to think any of the numbers were materially misstated. That's the goal of the audit. It's a clean opinion. Very cooperative staff. We have lots of requests. Even when we're not on site, we send lots of emails and phone calls, and we really appreciate Rodney and Melissa and all of the staff that work to get all the various requests we have throughout the year. So it makes our lives a little bit easier. And then the unassigned general fund balance increased $8.9 million, and available general fund balance increased $8.3. Those are some great numbers to share. And the city could continue for 4 months with their current savings account based on these numbers. So the available fund balance is the definition, this is the calculation that the LGC uses to compare you to similar municipalities in your population group. You can see the available fund balance percent as a total of total expenditures and transfers out was 39% last year, and it went up to almost 50% this year. So the LGC minimum is 25%, and then an average of similar units is 46%, so Hickory is a little above the average there. This slide shows your total fund balance over the past 3 years. You can see total fund balance also, this includes your capital reserve fund as well as the general fund. So that increased 11.6 million over the prior year. And then the unassigned fund balance is sitting in the general fund, and that increased to a little over 24 million, and that's that 8.9 million increase this year. The council goal is more conservative than the LGC's goal, and it's a minimum of 25% of the adopted budget, and the goal was met, and it was over 30% this year.
Can I say one thing? Because
Sure.
those were big numbers.
Yes.
That $8 million, a lot of that was one-time money. It was the ARPA, last installment of ARPA funds, as well as some MPO money we received for some of the bonders. That will wash itself out during the course of the year for next year. So that $8 million is, we did increase fund balance, but that is some of the backstory on that.
Right. And there's some encumbered funds and all those other things that were planned expenditures coming forward. So this also shows a general fund summary of your revenues and expenditures compared to the prior year. And the revenue increased 13.9 million and expenditures increased 6.3 million. These numbers also include any transfers out and transfers in, as well as there was a little over $3 million there's a GASB 87 was leases last year, and Government Accounting Standards Board 96 was for subscriptions. So any of the subscriptions that were recorded this year as part of that implementation was also included in this revenue number. So the next 3 slides show your top 3 revenues over how they compared to last year. And so the top revenue source is your ad valorem taxes, and it increased 1.8 million, or about 5% over the prior year. There was tax-based growth as well as property tax. This also includes your penalties and delinquent tax payments, and there were the past 2 years have been record years of permitting. So those are included in this number. The other taxes, this includes your local option sales tax, your franchise tax, and occupancy tax, and that increased 1.8 million, or 8% over last year as well. And restricted intergovernmental, this is where those grant dollars come into play, and you can see this had the largest increase of 2.4 million over the prior year, and it was almost $5 million this year. The next 3 slides show the top expenditures for the city, and so public safety is the top expenditure, and it had a very small decrease over the prior year, about 338,000, or 1%, and that was largely due to, in the prior year, there was a fire truck that was purchased, but there have also been some fire vacancies, so that was the reason for that decrease. The general government expenditure over prior year had an increase of 7.7 million, or about 64%, and you can see the landscape services has been housed in general government now. It used to be in the culture and rec, so that's part of this increase. There were lots of park maintenance projects, property purchase, APO projects, Dominion building, sidewalk, and there's also a PO rollover in this number. So the transportation, you can see it had another small decrease over last year, about 285,000, or 4%. This was also due to some prior year capital outlay purchases, such as the dump truck, crew cab, that were not necessary this year. So that's why that one decreased as well. So this slide shows the water and sewer current assets, liabilities, and your quick ratio. This is another measure that the LGC looks at to make sure that the city is operating in a healthy way. And so the quick ratio, if that was less than 1, there would be a concern there. And you can see it went down slightly due to new debt this year, but it's still over 4. So there's no issues with that.
Would that be due to depreciation?
Yes, well, depreciation is part of the operating income for water and sewer fund, yes. I'll go back. The specific factor for that one, an LGC indicator is if the operating net income is greater than 0 and their total cash is greater than 16%, and the city was above those as well. So the other two enterprise funds, airport and solid waste, you can see a little snapshot of how those look this year. And the airport, the unrestricted net position increased 1.5 million over the prior year. And then the solid waste was also self-sufficient this year, and it increased 673,000 in the unrestricted net position over prior year. So those are healthy numbers there. The LGC also wants us to report on certain performance indicators, and so there is stable property tax valuation and collection percent, no issues with that. There was a slight delay in the audit submission. It needs to be submitted by November 30th, but there's lots of things going on with the new software that you're all well aware of. So there were 3 audit findings this year: material weakness for significant audit adjustments made after field work, account reconciliations, and then a material noncompliance with one of the grants that was tested as a major program. So we are working closely with finance. There's a corrective action plan that they are working, and each one of you will have to submit your response to the LGC and what you guys are doing to work towards that, and we feel confident in the plan moving forward. Do you guys have any questions? I know that's a lot of numbers.
Go ahead, Tony.
The 3 findings that you found, from a professional perspective, in your opinion, given the complexity and all the projects that we have going on, is that at all a surprise? And especially the software conversion that we're doing, but the bond projects and everything else.
Right.
Give me your opinion on that.
It's not a surprise. We've worked through these things. I think I've been auditing the city for at least the past 5 years or so, and the software is absolutely the biggest hurdle, and we're working through that. They're working on implementing the new Tyler software, and there's a lot of training involved in that. There's a lot of time that's going into that versus the normal day-to-day, and so it's absolutely understandable that those things would happen.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Carrie? Before you sit down, I just want to compliment you and Martin Starnes. We are very fortunate to have you doing our work and to be doing the accounting and all of this and the audit process. Let's see, if I'm not mistaken, you were the 2023 #1, what was it, best firm to work for by Accounting Today, and also the 2023 Best Business Well Crafted Award for the city of Hickory. So, you've got a lot of accolades, and we appreciate everything that y'all do and the reputation that you have at Martin Starnes and all the people that work there. So we're very thankful for that. Not only that, but for the work that Rodney and his crew do here. I understand that you guys got a really good working relationship, and that always is a plus as well. So we want to thank all of you that are involved in that process. I know a lot of times the finance people and the people that work behind the scenes don't get a lot of compliments and stuff like that, because the work they do is not seen every day, but it is extremely important, obviously, as all of our departments are. But I just wanted to take this opportunity on behalf of the council to recognize the 2 of you and thank you for the work that you do and how well you work together.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Just 3 quick things. So we'll have 1 more year of the current software that keeps getting referenced. So it'll go live July 1st. The new software, but we'll be auditing, the numbers are going to be coming out of the current year system for next year for the audit for this year. Second thing is, I echo what you said. I appreciate Melissa Miller and her staff. There has been a lot of work. It's like having 2 full-time jobs working to implement this new software and doing the audit, so I appreciate the work that they've done. And lastly, if we would need a motion to accept the annual audit and a vote for the LGC.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we accept the audit as it's been presented.
Second.
Okay. And it's also, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's probably available to the public as well. Is it on our website?
It'll be on the website.
Okay, it will be
Right.
momentarily.
So the audit has to be submitted to the local government commission, and once it's approved, it takes them a while to approve that. But as soon as it's approved, then yes, it will be fully. We have a draft that you're welcome to look at anything right now. But yeah, we wait for that official approval before anything gets posted to the public.
I just want to make sure that the members of the public know that we've all seen it, we've all been involved in it and everything, obviously. I just want to make sure that any members of the public or the media realize that that is available for review, and it will be up soon.
Yes.
All right? I don't have anything else. Does anybody else?
Thank you.
Tim?
No, you've got a motion?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, I'm sorry. I forgot about that. We have a motion, we have a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? All right, that carries unanimously. Thank you.
guys.
Thank
Have a
you.
good evening. Thank you.
All right, for our second presentation, I would like to call on Ms. Ingrid Keller. She's the Executive Director of the United Arts Council of Catawba County, and she's also the immediate past president of the Rotary Club, for which I am very thankful because I'm the current president and she helps me tremendously. Or I could say I bug her tremendously, I don't know which. But thank you for being here, Ingrid.
Thank you, Mayor and President Guess, and Manager Wood and council members. We appreciate this opportunity to share with you the incredibly exciting story of how arts and cultural organizations are serving you and the citizens of the city of Hickory. So with me tonight is also our current board president, Alex Frick, sitting out here. And then to present the information to you is none other than Alan Jackson of the Jackson Group and also our immediate past board president. So I'll turn it over to Alan.
Good evening. It's good to see everybody, Mayor Gass, members of City Council, and Mr. Wood as well. So thank you so much for letting us have a few minutes to talk to you about this important study that we just took part in. This is a study that we took part in during the year 2022. It's actually something we did back in 2016 as well. I think I even came and presented the results back then a few years ago as well. But what's great about this study is that we took part in this arts and economic prosperity study that takes a look at communities across the nation to try to help understand the impact and the economy that arts and cultural organizations have across the nation. And it not only gives us our results to see how we did as a community, how our arts and cultural organizations are fueling our economy here, but also lets us compare ourselves to other communities of similar size to see what our impact is and how different it may be than other places across the country. So I want to hit some of the highlights for you on this study. You have a lot more detail in front of you, but I'm going to hit the highlights for you here on the screen. There were 373 different study regions of this study conducted across the nation. So out of those, there are about 63 of them that are in the same population range that Catawba County is, in that 100,000 to 250,000 range. So when I give you some comparisons a little bit, I'm comparing against that group of 63 comparable population communities. But there were 373 total across the United States that conducted the survey. Within Catawba County, we had 31 different arts and cultural organizations that participated in this study, that provided data, provided input, and reports to the study. And then of the events that we had going on and chances for audience participation throughout the year, we had 794 different event attendees complete a survey questionnaire that was then sent to this organization for them to tabulate and give us back the information we're looking for. As I mentioned, there's 63 comparable study regions in that 100,000 to 250,000 range population that we really want to compare against as well. So the big number for us, what we want to understand is what is the economic impact of these arts and cultural organizations that we have within Catawba County. And for the year 2022, the economic impact was $53,590,000. That is 80% higher than what we found in similar study regions across the nation. Those 63 regions were compared against. Our average was 80% higher of what we saw on that economic impact. And it's 9% higher than what we even showed back in 2016. So not only is it an improvement for us within the community ourselves, but compared to other populations across the United States that are comparable size, we are very, very high numbers in the economic impact. So what does economic impact really mean? It's a combination of three things that they calculate. It's the money that the arts and cultural organizations are spending and are bringing into this community. How many jobs does it support? What's the resident household income that is being generated from those arts and cultural organizations? And then what kind of revenue goes back to local, state, and federal governments from all that activity, both spending by the organizations themselves and spending by the audiences and attendees coming to those organizations for events throughout the year. So it's a combination of those three is what creates that $53 million I just showed you. Within that $53.5 million of spending, it's coming from two buckets. One is from the organizations itself, like our arts and culture organizations, what they're spending, which means it's also going back into our economy through salaries, through contract work, through paying for artists, paying for vendors, whatever it may be. That's $12 million of that $53 million is spent by the organizations itself. That is actually a little bit lower than the average of what other communities our size are spending. So in other words, for other communities our size, we're actually spending, the organizations within our community are actually spending a little bit less. However, the audiences that are coming to our events and spending money in our community, that's where we're 247% higher than other similar study regions. 41.5 million of that $53 million in spending is being generated by audiences coming to these events and activities throughout the year, whether they're local or coming in from out of the area. $41 million is what the generated income is, and the impact on our economy from the audiences themselves. That's where our big impact is compared to other communities. So you could almost argue that our arts and cultural organizations are generating a lot more outcome while spending less money themselves as an organization themselves. Just a couple of quick notes on those. The jobs that are supported by the arts and cultural organizations, that $53 million, supports 1,000 jobs, which is 74% higher than similar study regions. The personal income to residents is almost $23 million. That is also about 25% higher than other similar study regions. The government revenue that's generated is $6.1 million, which is 20% higher than those other similar regions. So overall, it's just really, this is a statement from the actual arts and economic impact study that was conducted. Their report said, that this survey demonstrates that when we support the arts, we're investing in Catawba County's economic and community well-being. And the numbers really, really bore that out. They also gave us a couple of calculators, which I thought were interesting, to show that for every $100,000 that's spent in direct spending by a nonprofit arts and cultural organization, you see the impact it has within the economy. 3.59 jobs, $72,000 in resident income, and then about $15,000 in revenue for the government. So all told, that $100,000 you can see is just immediately funneling back into these different economic factors that help drive our economy so strong. We did the same thing with $100,000 from audiences. This is people just coming in, spending money to come to events in our area, whether it's lodging if they're coming in from out of town, it's restaurants for food while they're in town, it's shopping that they may do when they're here. These numbers don't actually include the actual ticket price of whatever event they're attending. That goes to the organization. This is what they're generating into the economy outside of that ticket price. So you see, for every $100,000 that we get from audiences spending in Catawba County, it also has a ripple effect out to income and local, state, and federal government revenue as well. So overall, our attendees that came into an event in 2022 on average spent $56.20 per person per event. And that is higher. The national average was $36, I believe, per person per event. So we have people who like to spend a lot more money when they come to events in Catawba County. Even if they're already local and they're already here, they're still spending a higher average. When we look at our audiences, it's about 60-40. 60% are considered local audiences, 40% non-local. So for any event you went to that we did the study out throughout the year that we feel like was a pretty good representative sample of all the cultural organizations and the activities going on, about 40% of that population that you see at those events are from outside of what's considered the local area traveling in. So then when we look at the spending between those groups, local spending is about $50 per person, non-local is about $65, which makes sense. They have gas, they have lodging sometimes to contend with. But overall, that's what creates that $56 per person per event average. The study also gave us some great insight into just what people see as the importance of the arts and cultural organizations and facilities that we have in our area. All the people that were asked these survey questions were asked about, do they feel the venue or facility that they visited for this event is an important pillar within their community? Do they feel like there would be a great sense of loss if that activity or venue were no longer available? And as you can see, the percentages are very high. We're at the national average on that. About 85% on these kind of questions is what the national average was. So our audiences are have pretty strong opinions about the arts and cultural organizations and facilities that are located here in Catawba County as well. And the same questions were asked of the actual organizations, or leaders of those organizations. As you can imagine, those percents would be high, but they were also on the national average as well. So we had that same sense of pride and importance in the arts and cultural community from the actual organizations themselves that are running those groups. Overall, and this is nationwide, not just Catawba County, the study told us that 86% of people across the nation do feel like the arts and culture is important to their community's quality of life and livability. And we're happy to say that Catawba County, those percentages hold the same here. People have the same importance they put on those factors there as well. We did also have some just quick demographics. These are present, I think, in some of the information you have. Demographics of some of the people that did take part in the study that represent the audiences we had in 2022. The nice thing is that we did have some good representation from all different age groups in the study. Our largest age group of attending arts and cultural organization events is still the 58 to 76 years of age, but we did have some great representation from other age groups as well. And then we also had some great cross-section information from educational attainment, household income was a nice spread of seeing those numbers as well. And then the race and ethnicity, you have the breakouts of that, what made up our audiences in 2022 there as well. So with that in general, just the biggest thing kind of to summarize for you is that we saw from the study the same thing we saw in 2016, but actually to a greater extent. Our arts and cultural organizations are spending a little bit less on average themselves as an organization than what we see across the nation with comparable communities. However, the ripple effect of what that then translates to for audience spending for all the events and activities they're putting on is actually significantly higher than we're seeing in other communities across the nation. So we really can show an economic impact of the arts and culture organizations and audiences here in this county to a really, really dramatic effect, and also much higher than what we saw in 2016 as well, which was important to see. So that's what we wanted to share with you today, is just to help understand, put some numbers to what we already know is a great arts and cultural community we have here, but to understand the economic impact that it actually has on us as well was what the study is about, and we were very happy to take part in it a second time and see some very positive results. So, are there any questions I can help answer about this study and the report that we're sharing with you here today?
I don't have a question, but in 2016, I was on the board and participated, and we didn't know what to expect, I remember.
Right.
And we were just really pleased with what we got, and it's great to see that things have continued to just blossom. And well, we know all the new venues, and one of the things I think our arts community does well is to be responsive, to really look at what's out there, what do our audiences want, and that's how we get people from even outside our areas. It's impressive, so thank you.
Agreed. All right, thank you. Agreed.
I have
Yes.
one. Do you feel like, did you get any indication that these numbers reflect a full recovery from the effects of the pandemic, or do you feel like they're muted, still muted a bit because of that?
It's a good point. Actually, the organization that put together this study actually in their report said that, look, there are going to be some numbers that we still feel like are a little muted from the after effect of the COVID pandemic. Because again, we're at 2022, it was the full year 2022, early 2022, we were still seeing some residual effects when it came to audiences and attendance. So that was a big footnote in the report to make sure that they'd actually trimmed down some of the comparisons back to 2016 and didn't offer quite as many comparisons because they didn't feel like it was a very apt comparison. But that economic impact number, I mean, that's where we were the most surprised, is to see that it still went up 6%, even despite the fact that we know we'd gone through a couple of years of attrition when it came to audiences and events and activities. So yes, there are some considerations for that. We expected, honestly, the economic impact to be lower than it was in 2016. The fact that it was a little bit higher was a real surprise for us. But yeah, there's definitely some impact floating in there still from that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I know back when you presented back in 2016, it was a nice figure to see of what your impact is in our community. And I just want to thank you for all that y'all do to improve our community. It makes it very special.
Thanks. Well, we enjoy it, and it's nice to sometimes have some numbers to kind of put to it to see that there really is some impact into what the work that these organizations is doing. So the impact it has on all of us here. So, okay. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, Alan, also, I mean,
Yep.
this is just tremendous. I want to really say thanks to you and Ingrid, and I know there's a lot of people It's not just you and Ingrid, I know that, but y'all are here representing today. And practically every day, we hear from folks that talk about, wow, we didn't realize that this was available. We didn't realize this happened. We moved here because of this. What a great city, what a great, asset this is to the community. Obviously, economic development is something that we are all wanting to see grow. And the partnership and the relationships that we have with the Arts Commission and different folks such as you and Ingrid and everybody that serves is tremendous. And it really does make a huge impact. And we've seen the numbers here today, so I hope that we can certainly share those with the rest of the community and continue with the progress that we've already seen. So we really want to take this opportunity to say thanks, and we appreciate everything that y'all are doing.
Well, thank you for the support that the city of Hickory's had over all the years too. So it's really it's been a great partnership, and we appreciate all the support and continuing everything we're all doing. So.
Yes,
We
sir.
have something for all these people to do.
I'm sorry?
Enjoy. We need something for everyone to enjoy.
Absolutely.
That's why they come.
I think that makes a big difference. I really do think that's why the numbers are so strong, is that the diversity of activities and audiences that we bring here is just great. So,
Well, the one that really stood out was the 93% of people that said they had a sense of pride in
sure.
our arts and cultural community. So that's tremendously high.
agreed.
All right.
Alan, what was the sample size you used under?
So we got, for the audiences, it was about 800, no, right at 800 responses, about 793. So that was random responses gathered throughout the year at different activities, different events that we had people, volunteers go out and solicit those surveys. They needed those numbers, at least those numbers. We exceeded the number of what they requested for the sample of survey numbers to use. But yeah, right under 800 people gathered, created that audience survey data you saw.
I think I'm correct, that the bids, have we got the bids back on the Ole Art Walk?
No, not yet.
Okay. But that's something that will certainly contribute to those numbers, I'm hoping, in the future as well.
I would expect it as well. Yes,
Okay.
sir. All
All
right.
right. Thank you again. Any
Thank
other
you very
questions?
much.
All right. Thank you.
Good, thank you.
All right, next on the agenda is persons requesting to be heard. I don't have anyone that has signed up, but if you're here and perhaps you didn't know that you could speak or address the council, we will afford you that opportunity to do that at this time. So I'll ask if there's anyone present in the audience that would like to address the council this evening. There doesn't appear to be anyone that would like to address the council, so we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is approval of the regular minutes from our meeting on January the 2nd, 2024.
Move approval?
Second?
We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? That carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda is reaffirmation and ratification on second readings. Once again, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? That carries unanimously. Item number 8 is our consent agenda. I'll ask if there's any member of staff or council that would like to have any items removed from the consent agenda.
Move approval of the consent agenda?
Second?
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? The consent agenda is approved unanimously. I think that's it for this evening. We don't have any informational items, any new business, no public hearings. I'll ask if any member of the council would like to make any appointments to our boards or commissions. No appointments this evening? Any matters not on the agenda, sir?
No, sir.
All right. Moving right along. General comments. Anybody have anything that they would like to?
Yes, I have a comment. I want to just bring to everyone's attention that we have lost a member of our community and a fixture of here in our council. David Crosby passed away, and he was on the several commissions here. He was a founder of the farmers market, and he was always sitting right back there, so we will all miss David.
Very much, very much. Anyone else?
One
Tony?
comment to circle back to the audit, looking at the numbers, they're impressive. And that one group that I want to think, and I don't want to call it anybody individually, but the people that do the work on the grants that we get for a lot of the projects that we do, I think the results of that are seen in these numbers, the increases in fund balance that we're not having to draw down to do some of the things that we're doing. So I think we have some tremendously bright and insightful people working on these grants and getting this money for us. So thank you to everybody that's involved in that, because I think that work is reflected in these numbers that we're seeing here. So thank you.
I
Very true.
appreciate that, because it's also, getting the grants and administering those grants is a bear, all the bureaucracy that goes along, but it's great to get that money. Appreciate that. Tremendous.
Let's see, right before this meeting, we had a meeting, well, it wasn't really a meeting, it was more of a celebration for the 2023 Community Appearance Commission Beautification Awards. We had 7 award recipients for that, and so I just wanted to make mention of that. We appreciate not only those folks that got awards, but all of you that contribute towards making our city a more beautiful place. I have to mention litter, of course, that's one of the priorities, and we're always looking for folks that'll help to make our city look better, and we appreciate all that everybody does in correlation with that. The only other thing I have is yesterday, of course, was the Martin Luther King celebration in March. The Hickory High School, the winning state champion Hickory High School football team, as well as the band, was there to lead that group, and they were there with their coach, Coach Joe Glass, and some of the other coaches, and we just appreciate them and want to recognize them for participating in that yesterday. So that was a good turnout. All right, anybody else have anything? That's all I have for this evening. At this time, I'll make a motion for adjournment.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign? All right, we stand and adjourn. Thank you for being here.